for various reasons, But hey, if I'd sweet talk the prettiest girl in school, Craig, and I'm sitting next to her for the test, and she kind of sliding her paper over there, I'm looking at it. I'm not nervous if I know the answers to the test. I'm not nervous at all because she's showing me the answers. Matter of fact, I'm pretty bold. A, okay. Number 5 is C. Got it? Yeah. All right. But if I were to walk in that classroom and there was a pop quiz and the teacher said, everybody get in different corners, oh my God. You talk about nervous because I know I didn't study and I know I'm probably going to flunk the test. That's VA benefits. If we show you this is how you approach this is how you approach that, these are the regulations for this is how you fill this paperwork out. We take away the nerves. We take away the doubt. We show you this is how it's done. It doesn't mean the system is less complicated because it's not. Mm-hmm. It's not less complicated, but we hold your hand the whole way.
Yeah.
And what I teach people all the time, veterans are not dumb. We're not stupid. I serve with some of the most intelligent people in the world. I mean, you're on the Special Forces A team. Are you serious? I mean, guys are absolutely brilliant, speaking 2 or 3 different languages, learning all these different skills. Some pretty impressive people when I look at my life now and some of the guys I serve with. So we're not stupid, but we do need some training. We do need to know the how-tos. And what I love about what my son did, I had doubt, and he was like, and I asked him, I said, well, what do I need to do? He's like, Dad, just do what you do. And just sit in front of the camera and teach. Well, I'm a really good communicator. I mean, if you tell me all I got to do is sit in front of a camera and teach and put a PowerPoint slide together and show you how to do it, that's what I do. And the great thing about that is the lives we change. I want to tell a quick story because we help tons of people, right? One of the first people I helped live in South Louisiana. I go to a local school district as a motivational speaker, and I had to go to the main office to pick up my check for speaking to the students. And I go to the office, and while I'm in there, I had one of my hats on, said Ranger, of course, got to advertise everywhere you go, Craig. Yeah. Got to advertise.
Right? Of course.
Yeah. So I'm in there, and a lady, Miss Pam, meets me. She says, you can come back here, Ranger Johnson. I want to get the paperwork for your check. No problem, ma'am. I'm coming. I sit in her office. About 10 minutes in the office, she looks at me. She says, do you know anybody can help? My husband's a Vietnam vet, and he's jacked up from Vietnam. Now, I'd only helped at that point 2 people. It's not like I was as confident as I am today. I helped 2 people get their VA benefits. But I looked in this woman's eyes, and I said, Miss Pam, I have your husband, John, call me. So he called me, and they're local. I went by their house about a week later. And when I got over there, Craig, this will blow your mind. John had been going to the VA for 50 years after Vietnam. 50 years. On their kitchen table, all of his medical records were in a FedEx pouch, this thick, on the kitchen table. Mm-hmm. And John had PTSD so bad, he wouldn't look at you, he would look through you.
Yeah.
He'd be sitting there and you knew he wasn't there. You're talking to him, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And we started that night, and I'll never forget, they walked me out on the porch, and I looked at him. And man, I'm scared. I'm not going to sit there like, I was so confident I could help him. I wasn't. I just wasn't. I knew I had more information than they had at that particular time. But before I got in my vehicle, I told Mr. John, I'm not only going to help you, I'm going to help you get 100%, which is pretty bold because he was at 10%.
Oh, my God.
I went back and we kept working, and we got him to 100% in a few months. Miss Pam was able to leave her job and go be with him at home. Well, he lived for 4 more years, and then he passed away. Miss Pam called me to the house for the service. He died October the 2nd, 2022. And she told everybody, had it not been for Ranger, I wouldn't have been able to come home and be with John. I was able to be with John for 4 years because I was able to leave my job and be with him because he got Ranger got John to 100%. See, that's a real story
Yeah.
with real people. And I have a good time talking about it. I know I'm motivational, but when I talk about the real lives that we change, that's CFV. And now my son has come up with other ideas, and I want him to talk about those and how we can help even more people and giving them value. Good.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I mean, yeah, amazing story. So, but yeah, like my dad was saying, I'm all about how can we help vets at scale, as many as possible. We have technology, which I'm grateful for, internet, you got YouTube, you got our course, you got so many ways that you can help people. And of course, one of the ways that we decided to help folks last year, really a few years ago, the idea came to start an app to make the process way easier for vets. I mean, of course, we have the educational part of it, but the app VA Claim Builder is all about walking a veteran through the process of building their statements. Now, many people don't know how important it is for a veteran to tell their story when they're putting together their claim. Believe it or not, you can have medical records from the military. You can have current medical records. You can have even potentially images of your injury from the service, submit a claim, and still get denied. We've seen it happen where folks have actual medical records from the military showing that this is from the military. I'm dealing with this, and they still don't get their benefits. And can't tell you why that can happen, but what we do know is that when you tell the full picture of your story, current records, even if you don't have military records, putting together a statement that walks through, hey, this is what happened to me when I was in the service. This is how this injury has impacted me ever since on a day to day. And even third party statements from buddies, people who actually saw you go through the thing you went through that you're dealing with now from the injury. Those pieces of evidence are so critical. And we even had a former undersecretary of the VA on one of our coaching calls who seconded this. Having a statement put together by you, by buddies, is huge. And so we put together VA Claim Builder to make that step easier. So basically, what VA Claim Builder does, you go to that website, www.vaclaimbbuilder.com. You can go through the process of going through the VA regulation. We ask you questions so you can put together answers to that, talking about what you did in the service, how the thing that you did in the service led to the injury, how you're dealing with that on a day-to-day now. And it pretty much takes that information. We even use AI that you can use to make your statement a little bit better, put it into a Word document, export that, and sign off on it and submit it with your VA claim. And even send emails over to people who your buddies, could be folks you serve with, could be your spouse, people in your family now, or friends, your pastor, anybody you want to send that over to, who can also put together their own statements and submit that up with you as well, and submit it with your claim. Now that is just a critical part of the process. And yeah, we wanted to put together that app to make it easier. Another key part of the app is pulling in the VA regulation, because it's not just telling your story, but it's also speaking the VA's language. So you don't just say, I hurt my knee. You talk about the level of injury of your knee. Was it a sprain? Was it at a level where you had to get surgery? How significant was that injury? And we give you the wording from the actual VA regulation that ties to what you're dealing with. So then you can put it all in so that the person reviewing your file at the VA can not only give you the rating that you earned, but make sure it's at the right level based on the significance of the injury in regards to the actual regulation. So put that together, went live Veterans Day last year, November 11th, 2024. And it's been out there ever since. We've been able to, I think we have over 300 veterans currently using it right now, and it's steadily growing every day.
Wow, that's incredible. And I was curious, what are the most common pitfalls you see when individuals fail to get services with the VA? all those guys that you're talking about that just received that 10%, what are the major pitfalls that you usually see with them?
Yeah. One of the major pitfalls is just like my son talked about, not knowing how to put it together,
Okay, yeah.
not knowing, right? An example would be uh, I'm a great example. I did 20 years in combat arms for 20 years. I never went to combat, but I served in infantry, Ranger Battalion, Special Forces. You don't go to the hospital. You don't go to sick call in these units that are high testosterone. I mean, you don't go on sick call. Why? You're not going to be a wimp, right? Put some salt on it, wrap it up, let's go. Take a Motrin, drive on. That's what everybody teaches you. So you're not gonna, get hurt and hey, I'm sick.